So I'm Linda, so that's no. Let's jump in. For the past about 3.5 months, I have been recruiting on for data scientists and ML engineer. So one thing I have seen before I recruit, of course, I have to write job descriptions. What I have seen is this industry, everyone define data scientists a little bit differently than the other company, or in Cisco, that's where I work, that even inside Cisco, they define differently. So what I see when I talk to candidates, a lot of them, because they're confused. So I have spent a lot of time talking to them before the interview, just to make sure what type of job they're interviewing for. I don't want to waste their time. At the same time, I don't want to waste my team's time to interview them. So since I'm from engineering, I have seen data scientists. I just hired a senior data scientist. So I have seen resumes more from research point of view. And that's why from my definition, I'm looking for applied. I'm not looking for someone to read the research paper to invent some algorithm. I want them to be able to apply the machine learning to the problem. Okay, but why do I say they are data scientists? Because at the same time, if the algorithm does not solve the business problem, they might need to do some research. They might need to write a new algorithm. So I do look for someone who has a PhD degree. Okay, and I think it's different from company to company. I have seen many data scientist definition, but in this case, in Cisco, we have a very clear definition on data scientist career path. So the minimum requirement is to have a PhD. So for candidates, some of the candidates I talked to, somehow they just love the title, data scientist. So that's not going to work in this case. Okay, so that's one type. The other type is ML engineer. Someone come in, oh, I know ML, I know this, I know that. And most of them, I have to say, most of them are just got from school or worked on it for a year or two. So they usually, I do not see ML ops as their experience. So depending on whether I'm hiring a entry level versus a senior level, the ML ops will become very important to me when I look at their resume. Okay. In my current team, I have a couple of data engineers. So what they do basically is more of a polling data. We have Snowflake, so they can pull data from Snowflake. They can pull data from the databases. So their job is very different. They do not apply machine learning, any of the methodology at all. But the other one trying to automate polling data, data cleansing, data transformation. So that's what their main jobs, main activities. And the other one is not in my team, but I saw that as when I was looking for people, is a data analyst. So when their resume shows up, usually they have Tableau, Looker, they did some MATLAB, something like that. So they are when they see I have a data scientist role open or a machine learning engineer role open, they think they qualify for that kind of job. So it's very not well defined in current market. So if you are looking in today, you are looking for data science related jobs, that's something I would say you really need to read the job description and find out whether that's the type of job or type of role you're looking for. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
There is one question in chat, and if they don't want to unmute, I'll happily read it for them.
Okay.
But Christy, if you want to go ahead and do it, otherwise I can read it for you.
Oh, I can just go ahead. I know you mentioned for like ML engineer that you're looking to see like ML ops type of experience. Are you looking for more an ML ops certification from like boot camp, or that they've done projects in the body of their resume pertaining to ML ops?
Um, the actually the answer is depends. So I have, for example, I have two roles. I just filled the entry level machine learning engineer. So for the entry level, if they try something even at school, that's okay. I can teach them, right? So for the I do have a lead machine learning engineer. So for that role, I am looking at someone has done it, right? They can show me what they have done in ML ops. So it also that's a good way to get into is what I describe here doesn't give you the level, right? Could be senior, could be junior, could be lead. So for usually for entry level, as long as you can do Python, you know machine learning packages, that'll be okay for me. I just filled the role a week ago. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. If there's no more question, I can go into more details. So since I've seen many resumes for the past few months, I'm still doing it right now. Still, the first thing first, proofread your resume. I have seen typos, not typo in terms of misspelling, because you use auto correction. The word is not what you're meant to be. I've spotted a couple of that before, okay? And also a couple of candidates, I rejected them because they put their GitHub link there, and when I click on it, it's 404. So if you cannot even do your resume and the link on it is 404, I don't think you're serious looking for a job. Okay, so from my point of view, since I have so many resumes, I have to scan through. So that is the one thing. Please do proofread your resume, whatever you put it on. And then second one is I think is a phenomenon lately. People put their phone number on it. There's no voicemail. I cannot leave voicemail. Okay, so that is really strange. You put a phone number there. I cannot leave you for a voicemail. Okay, so those are more like a naive mistake or mistake you should never make. So the third one, since the job title definition, each company is very different, do talk to your recruiter. I am the hiring manager that I will reach out to the candidate and talk to them to understand whether they know what the job is, right? I really don't, my team is really busy. So I don't want to get a candidate in, spend all of their time. Turns out the candidate didn't understand what the job is, right? So I will reach out to them, but in general, you will have a recruiter to talk to. Do talk to them, find out whether the data scientist role or the machine learning engineer role is what you want, right? So you don't want to waste your time, basically. The other one I have seen during the interview is I have candidates do not do the research at all. So especially maybe it's because Cisco is really big, has many products, but in the job, the posting already said which product it is. So I have the candidates coming in, and they have no idea what I'm talking about, what product it is. So that really doesn't show you are interested in the job. Maybe it's a hot job market, you don't have to do the research, but in my case, I do want to find candidates who want to work here, right? So that's one thing. I do test my candidates, doesn't matter which role, whether it's a lead ML engineer or ML engineer, data scientist, I do have coding questions for them, okay, and algorithm questions. So I have seen candidates, they do not prepare, even though I am the one who will call the candidate and tell them, you're going to have coding interview, you'll be Python coding interview, what type of format it is, right? Even with that, I still see candidates are not prepared when at the time of interview. Any questions?
There's some questions on the chat. I know you want me to read them out?
Okay. So I saw Raj's question on coding questions based on data structures and algorithms. So in my case, it's coding questions based on data structure, and it's in Python because my whole team, the only thing we code in is Python. Okay. Algorithm, usually I don't, my team do not ask you coding question on algorithm. So I have a data scientist that will interview you, ask you algorithm, but you need to describe what the algorithm is, where you will apply that, right? Because this is applied engineering case, right? So you just describe the algorithm doesn't help me. I want you to tell me where you can apply that. Okay.
There's a couple questions about professional certificates. So like Justin Ha is asking, what do you think about professional certificates? Will hiring manager hire someone with a certificate in data analytics from a company like Google?
No, I do not look at certificate. Okay. It doesn't really help. I do look at, depending on the role. Okay. So the, if the role, like what I said, I just hire a entry-level ML engineer. So for that role, if you have done it as a project, because you're taking a certificate or you are taking a degree, either one. So you have done school project and you listed there and you're applying for entry level. Yeah, I will look at your project. I still will not look at your degree or certification in that case. So Justin, if you unmute yourself, did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, this is a question from Ron. So how about the boot camps, the machine learning boot camps? So I have a lot of software development experience, but I am trying to enter to machine learning. And if I go to one of these machine learning boot camps, like which takes 6 months or something like that, will that give me a chance to get into machine learning?
If you are looking for a senior role, no. But if you are looking for a more entry role, yes.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Monica is asking some good college program. So I am particular on how I look at your undergrad degree. Okay, so if your undergrad degree is in computer science, computer engineering, I'm more selecting candidate based on that, right? Almost all of the candidate has at least master degree or PhD. So I do look at their undergrad degree because data structure. So I can tell you this. I have talked to, I don't know, 200, I don't know how many candidates by now. A lot of candidates, I don't care what their degree is or where they're from, they couldn't even answer basic queue versus a stack. Okay, I have to go think English, stack versus a queue. So a lot of candidates, I'm serious, most of the Doesn't matter whether it's a newly grad from college. I have met a lot of them versus experienced. Even that, most of the candidates couldn't pass that. Okay, so I don't know what happened to the education, but that's a really simple question, and that's becoming my filtering question. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So do not. This is new, I guess. Even though it's on the WebEx, the video interview, when I ask question, I saw candidates search online and reading from whatever the screen they are facing. That's a no. Please do not do that. I rather have the candidate tell me, you know what, I've done this before, I don't remember, or I've never seen this or don't know about it. You give me time, give me chance to learn, right? That's a much better answer than searching. And especially one of the candidates, when I was asking him some question related to Linux kernel, he searched in front of me and he's reading off the screen, because I asked a lot of them. So I copy the search, the Wikipedia on my screen, and the guy reading word by word. It's not good. Okay, do not do that. Also, my team, my engineers are telling me they have also saw the candidates searching or Googling in front of them. Okay, and pretty much that's done. Your interview is done by then. Okay. So, and the other thing is, this is more of a, I guess it's more of a junior engineer kind of problem. So they want to make their resume look good. So they've done a portion of the project, but the way they wrote on the resume sounded like they led the project, they ran the project. So we are all trained interviewer, okay? In Cisco, we all have to take interview certification training. So a lot of legal thing we need to learn not to ask, but a lot of ways to ask you on your resume, okay? So if you misrepresent your work experience, we will find out. And the other thing is, I can see you shifting. I can see your eyes. I can see your body language, your tone change. Anyhow, by looking at all of this together, I can tell you are, I don't want to say lying, but it's not a good thing, okay? The other thing is some of the resumes, I don't know why people pick the fonts. The word is so scrunch up together. I cannot read it like a glance it fast enough. So sometimes I just go, oh, I don't want to read this. Let me scroll down. Let me look at the summary. Doesn't look interesting. Okay, skip. Okay, so just don't use some uncommon fonts, and if you see your words are all scrunched up together, same thing for me, for any recruiter, when they look at it, they can't read it. Okay. The other thing is people put their code examples online, and sometimes if I'm interested in you or in the candidate, I will go to GitHub. Okay, I will look at it, or someone listed on their resume, I will go there. So clean up your GitHub, okay? If I have rejected candidates because I click on their GitHub project, when their code is horrible. It's spaghetti. I don't know what kind of code it is. It doesn't matter, it's Python, C, you do not write your code that way, okay? So if you do want to point your hiring manager or the company to your GitHub, make sure they are the good representation of your work, not something you throw out there and the hiring manager is looking. So just be careful what you put out there.
Hey, Linda.
Yes.
One of the things that I look for, now I don't have the data science background, so I'm curious if it's the same for you. But one of the things I look for when I'm interviewing is just someone has a lot of forked repos. So it's like I have a ton of repos that look really good, but none of them are really mine. They're forked from somebody else, and you can't even see what they contributed to it. I know that might be, is that different for data science or the same?
Data science is a little bit different. I see a lot of people putting their coursework, things they try themselves on GitHub. Okay, so in that case, I do go there and look at their project, right? So because maybe it's because of their this is schoolwork or something like that, the coding quality is really bad. Okay, so that's one. Second one is what you said. Someone claimed they are active GitHub contributor. If you have that on your resume, you better support yourself with real contribution. Okay, so what I would do, I would go to their GitHub and then look at their contribution. There's a map there, right? So I have found a couple of candidates that claim they are actively contributing in a community. I went there the whole year, big zero, no code change, no code check-in. If that is active, I don't know how you define active anymore, right? Okay, yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. I see chat message.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you are looking at candidates' projects, does it help if it is more visual? For example, if I showed the output in a video format, so it's easy to see, rather than you would want to see the, there's code, but do you look at the like GIF or video format, or do you look at the actual code?
I look at actual code.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will help if someone, like some of the candidates, they can communicate clearly. Okay, so if they have a video out there showing how they present, that will help them. Okay, but for me, I go to GitHub. I just want to see what your code look like, right? What's your work habit? If it's very sloppy, if you're sloppy in one place, you'll be sloppy at job too, right? So that is what I'm looking for.
I was asked to read a question. So I understand why pretending to know something that the interviewee does not know would be bad, but what if the interviewee says that they're looking something up on Google? Why would that be bad? So they're saying they're going to look something up and they're looking it up. Would that be bad? And why would that be bad?
So first of all, you have this 45 minutes interview, right? We want to get down to the details, right? If you don't know, you just say, I don't know. What's so bad about that? Be honest about it. Right, there are many ways to say it nicely. You don't have to say, oh, I don't know. I have no idea what you're saying, right? That's not a good attitude. But I have seen a couple of candidates because the thing is, no matter how long you have worked in this field, you have not worked in AppDynamics, right? You have not seen my problem before. So you are going to run into things that you haven't seen or haven't heard before. Just be honest about it. Be adult, right? So that is what I'm looking for as a hiring manager. Why is bad? So I assign you something to do, okay? And then you didn't understand. Instead, you can tell me, say, hey, Linda, this I've done before. I need some time to do some research, right? I'm more looking for whether I hire you, whether you can tell me, you can communicate with me, right? Yeah, you can go do a research afterwards and say, hey, I haven't done this before. I need to do some research. Yay, good for you, right?
So I have a question about GitHub. I posted in the chat, but I'll just mention it. So do you recommend that candidates have projects on GitHub? And if so, I know your time is valuable and any hiring manager's time is valuable. How many projects are you willing to look at? Because it should it be like you send the link to your most complex project, or is it better to have a range of projects to kind of show that you can handle different types of solving different types of problems?
I would say if you have multiple machine learning projects, let me give you an example. If you have done natural language processing, okay, and another one you have done is supervised learning on image recognition, okay, or something you have done, okay. So if you spend some time and read the job description, and the job description is because one hiring, for example, is hiring for anomaly detection over time series data. Okay, if you have read the job description, you should find something related to that. You give me a whole portfolio, to me is, okay, you don't care. You just, the same resume you give to somebody else, the same thing. Right, if you show you have, you care, you should show the project that's related to the job you are applying. Christy, did I answer your
Oh,
question?
oh, thank you. Yeah, I had to get off mute. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Did I skip someone's question?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. My last slide. Yay, I have an opening. So this is a lead position. If you have this background and want to work for, so let me tell you a little bit about AppD. AppD is short for AppDynamics. So AppDynamics was acquired by Cisco about 4 years ago. So this group, we're software, right? We have no hardware. This position I'm hiring is for a brand new product we're working on. So you're not maintaining anybody's code, and everything we're working on is new. Okay, so you come in, you give us you bring your background in machine learning, okay, and then you will lead some junior engineers. So if you are interested, I put my recruiter's email there. I asked him for his permission, and he said yes. So you can email him directly, or you can apply from LinkedIn or any of the places we post. So just give you something this is like what I said is on the platform we're based on today is all cloud, right? The known one is AWS. We will work on the other cloud, but the first one is that, and then it's a brand new project. My team is about 10 right now. So I have 3 data scientists, and I have data engineers, I have machine learning engineer. So when you come in as a lead role. And the lead role in Cisco is a pretty high grade. Okay, so we do look at you from look at your working experience, and you should be able to lead and to be able to talk to the other engineering team, because we are the only data science team for this product line. So we are working with other engineering team. They are our consumer. Okay, so we are the one come up with the algorithms, the models, and guide them how they integrate with their product. So that it's really exciting, not just because I said so, I believe so. And the other thing is we have different type of data you're playing with. So we don't have a data problem. We have petabytes of data you can play with. Okay, if you have any questions related to this role, you can ask me now, or you can ping me either way.
No, one question. Vicky is asking how useful are cover letters?
We don't ask you for cover letters.
Oh.
we don't ask you for a cover letter. We do not ask you for your reference. No reference. We don't check reference. We do criminal background check. We do other checks, not reference check.
I hate cover letters. I had to write a few of those when I was looking for a job, and they didn't help. They didn't make a difference, I don't think so.
I have to admit, when I'm hiring, I almost never read them. I go
Yeah.
straight to the resume and then go straight to GitHub. Not for
Yeah.
data science, so maybe it's different.
No, cover letter, we don't even ask for it. So.
So for everybody else, I'm going to talk about the use of AI in business and practical business uses for artificial intelligence. I love AI. I think it's the coolest thing ever. I love all the stuff that people are doing with AI right now, like synthesizing images of human faces, etc. I think it's just so cool. And I'm currently working as an artificial intelligence engineer full-time. And it made me curious about what other business applications there are for AI. Like how can a business make money using AI aside from all of the really cool stuff that AI can do? So here's the contents of this presentation. We're going to talk about Airbnb, home values and correct listing photos, Uber with supply and demand prediction and optimizing Eats routes, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok recommender systems, Duolingo on word and lesson tracking and notifications, Amazon for packaging type recommenders, Disney for face recognition for animated characters, ThyssenKrupp optimizing passenger wait times, Pixar upscaling images to save render time, LinkedIn to prevent abuse and anomaly detection, DoorDash to optimize marketing spend, and Google real-time sign language translation for video conferences. So artificial intelligence is this big cultural catchphrase because it's been a staple of sci-fi since the 1920s. I think Metropolis is one of the first movies that had robots and artificial intelligence. And recently I saw a movie called The Forbin Project, where it was made in the 1970s, and it takes place in the near future, where this man's house can talk to him. And he can say things like, who's at the door, or turn on the lights, and the house will turn on the lights. And it was back in the day, this was scary. This was artificial intelligence. But of course, we have that now. We have that with Amazon Alexa, and it's not science fiction anymore. So, okay, so there's a problem with artificial intelligence for business. Number one is it is super hard to make. Like I've had people call me and say, hey, I'm interested in incorporating AI into my business. And I'm like, okay, tell me more about your business. And they say, well, I'm just a shoe shop. It's one person. And I have to tell them, I'm sorry, but I don't think you'll be able to, because it's really, really hard to do. You can't just like press a button and insert some boilerplate AI code yet. It has to be custom made for every company. Most of the cool stuff is not practical. Like AI can beat video games better than humans, but that's not really a practical business skill. AI is not a skill that many people have. It's very, very difficult to learn and understand. I mean, probably no more difficult than other types of coding, but there aren't a lot of people in it just yet. It takes a long time. The company that I'm at, they've been working on their AI solution for a year and a half. And I would estimate that if you want to incorporate any type of AI into your business effectively, it's going to probably cost you around $1.5 million. That's for a team of probably 6 people working for maybe a year and a half. So there are a lot of misconceptions about what AI can do, and the media doesn't really help that. People think that human level AI is here. It is not. It is very far away. At this point, AI is just, it's like a function. It can turn one number into another number. It can turn an image into a word or vice versa, but it's really hard to make it useful. And also, the vast majority of AI applications have never, ever been tried before. I had a friend call me and say, hey, what do you think about this application for AI? And I said, that's brilliant. And I guarantee you that throughout human history, that idea has never been tried, because AI is a brand new thing. So the cool thing is you're doing something that nobody's ever done before. But the bad thing is you're always being a trailblazer. You cannot rely on anybody else's past work in what you're doing. So you have to try it on your own. And even then, sometimes the client may not be happy with what they get. You just have to say, nobody's ever done this before. I think I can do it, but I'm not sure. And not very many clients are willing to invest that much money up front. Okay, so let's talk about Airbnb. Airbnb is one of the companies that uses artificial intelligence. It's like Uber for your house, right? You can rent out a bedroom for very cheap. I like it a lot. So it uses your house's location and number of bedrooms and other data to help suggest what price you should rent your house out for. It also helps the renters post appropriate pictures. For instance, Airbnb requires that you post a picture of your living room, your bathroom, and your bedroom. So if you post a photo that is not clearly one of those, Airbnb will say, hey, this photo is unclear. We need a picture of your bathroom and your living room and your bedroom. And so the user will have to keep trying and taking different photos until one is detected to fit in those categories. And that's done without people. That's done through computer vision, doing something called image classification. The program says, okay, I think this is a bedroom. And if it doesn't fit into that, then the user has to retake it. Okay, so something really cool that I just learned about Uber. Uber is the ride sharing company. So they estimate the demand for rides in advance, and they will move drivers to that area ahead of time. So imagine there's like a really big baseball game going on in San Francisco, like, you know, the Giants are playing or something. Uber will predict maybe a couple hours in advance that that is going to be a huge traffic zone and that tons of people are going to be needing Uber. So Uber will send its drivers to that location so they can get more business. Also, Uber uses AI to help them optimize the route times for Uber Eats. So Uber, you can order food and your driver is probably very busy. They have to pick up 10 different orders and then deliver them to 10 different people. So Uber uses AI to optimize the amount of time spent doing that. So to slim down the amount of time spent delivering the food so they can get back to work faster. Okay, YouTube, this is probably pretty common knowledge for everybody. YouTube uses AI to recommend new content for you. So does Instagram and TikTok based on what you've watched before. So one interesting experiment that I would like you guys to do is watch YouTube using somebody else's computer. You know, get a friend's computer, go to their house or something and watch YouTube on it, because the ads that pop up and the recommendations that pop up are so completely different. I did this at a friend's house. I went over to his house and we were watching YouTube videos together, and the ads that popped up I've never seen before, and they were really strange, and it just showed how different of a person my friend is from me. It's like a different universe. So it's just an interesting experiment to try. Okay, so this one really surprised me. So everybody knows Duolingo is the app that, you know, teaches you a different language. Duolingo uses AI in everything, like from top to bottom. The entire app collects data to use for AI. So every word that you learn on the app, the AI tracks how difficult that word is for you. And it can even predict how long it will take you to forget that word. I thought that was super cool because, like, you know, I learned a word in Chinese, and so Duolingo, it knows exactly, like, he's going to forget that word in 3 weeks. You know, I think that's just so cool that it can predict that. And so it uses that that number to find your probability of passing a lesson. So when you go on Duolingo and you want to learn Chinese, it will say, okay, I think I have an estimate of how good this person is at Chinese. I'm going to send them this lesson. I think they have a 70% chance of passing it. So let's see what they do. And if you pass it, Duolingo will give you harder questions. And if you don't, it will give you easier questions. So it adapts itself to you. Also, another super interesting thing is Duolingo gives you notifications, right? I think if you've ever installed Duolingo, then you've been guilt tripped by these notifications. They'll, you know, I tried to learn Chinese for a week, and then after a week, like, you know, it would send me these notifications saying, hey, we haven't seen you in a day, you know, get back on Duolingo. And it kept doing that for like a week. What I didn't know is that Duolingo is using AI to predict when to send those notifications to you and exactly what to say. And they've received an increase in 2% of customer retention over the first few weeks by doing this. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but Duolingo has 300 million users. So that's quite a few million users retained by using that one simple technique. All right, so Amazon, it's no surprise that Amazon uses AI. You know, they're a big cloud provider for AI, and they use AI to recommend products to you, of course, and also complementary products. What I didn't know is they use AI to recommend what package to put your products into. Like, let's say you buy a toothbrush. They will use a packaging recommender to say, hey, we want to put it in one of those foam envelopes. Or if you buy a computer, they will say, hey, we think that we should put this into one of these larger cardboard boxes and then put this much packaging around it. I thought that was super cool. A human does not choose the packages that your stuff is sent in, a computer does. Okay, so Disney, this is another one of those more interesting things. So I read a blog post that says that at Disney, they're using facial recognition, not on people, but on cartoons. So everybody knows about facial recognition. There was a big furor over it a while ago that a computer can take a photo of you and recognize you from your face. It can say, you know, this person is Tyler Suard. He's this height, he's this weight, he lives here. So Disney is doing that with Disney characters. So if you show them a photo of like Aladdin, it will draw a box around Aladdin's face and say, this is Aladdin. And then it'll have Jasmine and it'll say, this is Jasmine, this is Iago. The reason why Disney is doing that right now is because they're working on Disney Plus. Disney has 100 years of content that they're trying to get online and classify. Like if you think about Aladdin, there were, I think, like 5 Aladdin movies. There were multiple Aladdin TV shows. Then there were like these one-off, like straight to DVD shows. Then there were other cartoons, other spin-offs. So for Disney to categorize those thousands of hours of Aladdin shows by hand would be really, really hard. So they're doing it by face detection. They're saying, they're classifying products by saying, okay, so this is product 00123445.mv4, and they say it contains Aladdin, Jasmine, and Iago. And so they say, okay, it probably belongs to the Aladdin franchise. And so that's how they are classifying this enormous amount of content for moving it to Disney Plus. And also, they didn't mention this in the blog, but I think they are also using it for tracking copyright infringement. Like, so if I, you know, put up a YouTube video and it's got Mickey Mouse in it, then they are going to find that on the internet and say, hey, cease and desist. Okay. ThyssenKrupp is an elevator manufacturer. And what they are doing is they are using AI to optimize passenger wait times. So if you get onto, I guess, a fairly new elevator that says ThyssenKrupp on the inside, you can know that the elevator is thinking. It isn't just going to like the nearest floor that presses the button. It's thinking, okay, how can I move this person up to this floor and handle all of these other people the best way possible? I thought that was really cool. I'd never even thought of applying AI to elevators. And I think it just goes to show you that the opportunities for AI application are endless. If you think of a way to apply AI to something, you are probably the first person ever to think of that. Okay. And Pixar. Pixar is a digital animation studio that is owned by Disney. So if you know anything about digital animation, it's kind of a multi-part process. What people will do is they will create a 3D model, right? And they will set the 3D model in a background, and then they'll have it moving around and saying hello. And then what they have to do is they have to render it. They have to turn this whole 3D model background and this model into just an image. And then they will, you know, record that image, and then all of those thousands of images are what makes the movie. So when you are rendering, as in turning this whole 3D environment into just an image, that takes a ton of time. It takes like weeks or months. And what Pixar is doing is, instead of creating these huge images in very, very high resolution, they will render smaller images, which takes a lot less time. And then they will use AI to upscale them. So upscaling is where you have a really small image and you took it and it's really small, so it's just inherently small. And then you resize it and it doesn't get pixelated. Like normal images, when you resize them and blow them up huge, they get pixelated. But AI now is capable of blowing up an image without any pixelation. It's really cool. Like I have old images that are really small, and then I blow them up and it looks great. Okay, and LinkedIn uses anomaly detection to prevent abuse. LinkedIn is one of the more civil social networks in that most of the people using LinkedIn use it appropriately. They use it for business, they use it for polite posts and comments. And so when there is an anomaly, LinkedIn says, okay, I think that this might be inappropriate use. So that is how they flag abuse, is by anomaly detection, when something out of the ordinary happens or gets posted. Okay, so DoorDash is another company kind of like Uber Eats. You can order them to pick up things for you. I think they do food, but they also do other things too. So if you don't want to leave the house, you call DoorDash, use their app, and you say, "Hey, I want a pizza," and they'll deliver it to you. So DoorDash uses AI to optimize their marketing spend, and what that means is on Instagram and on Facebook, you can put an image up there and put some text on there saying, "Hey, use DoorDash, it's really cool." And then you can choose what times to display that ad, how much you want to pay, who do you want to show it to. And so DoorDash is using AI to figure out where to spend its money on Facebook and Instagram for the most impact for drivers and users of the app. Okay, so Google is one of the foremost companies in AI. They are doing amazing, incredible things. And this is one of the things that I did not know about. They are working on real-time sign language translation for video meetings. So like a video meeting like this, I could just stop talking and then I could start doing sign language. And then Google's AI would translate that into words for you guys to hear. I think that's brilliant because real-time translation is a thing. Like people use it on Skype to talk between, say Chinese and English, but I had not heard about real-time sign language translation. So I just think that's pretty cool. Okay, so the company that I am working for, AIM Consulting, one of our clients is an energy company. And so we've been enlisted to help them predict energy demand. And what that means is we have thousands of customers saying, okay, we need this much energy at this point and that much energy at that point. And they only tell us like 24 hours in advance. So that's really hard. So what we're doing is we are predicting the energy demand based on other factors besides those people telling us. We estimate how much energy they're actually going to need at any given time. And we prepare to provide that energy to them. Also, after we predict how much energy they're going to need, we predict what that load is going to look like on our system, which parts are going to be stressed, which parts need more energy. And we predict which equipment to turn on or off to facilitate the transportation of that energy. And we know how powerfully to turn them on. We know, do we want this running at 100% or 0% or 50% or anything in between? And it's really fun. It's super, super incredibly challenging because, like, as I said, nobody's ever done this before. Like if a company comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to install Windows," that's easy. There are 500 YouTube videos that show me exactly how to install Windows. But if a company comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to use AI to predict energy demand so we can, monitor the components in our system and make decisions appropriately," nobody's ever done that before. There's nothing that I can look at. There's no manual that I can read. There's no simple YouTube that I can follow. We have to do everything, from scratch. We have to just do the best we can, putting pieces together of other things that people have seen and done. So it can be stressful at times because I will try something and I don't know if it's going to work. And I don't know if I'm wasting my time doing it or not, but it is really fun. And it's given me a lot of experience in how to build these big machines at scale, how to build AI that works for a massive business that's getting, hundreds of API calls per minute. So yeah, I mean, that is the end of my presentation. And so now I would like to open it up for Q&A. It looks like some people sent some messages. I'm going to leave this up here. This is my email. I answer LinkedIn more often. So if you add me on there, as Jeff said, I post on there every single day about interesting things about AI, something I thought was interesting, or a cool quote, or just some things that I'm learning. All right, so let's see. Let's take a look at this chat.
Most of the chat is just random comments during the meeting. I don't know if there's any actual questions.
I have a question though.
All right.
It's totally not necessarily AI related. This is coming really from a consumer point of view, so I apologize, but I'm really curious what the answer is.
Yes.
Have you ever, I used to sit and watch things like television shows like Criminal Mind and really get mad and shake my fist at them when they get an IP address wrong, where it's like, no, it can't be above 255. But you also see that they'll zoom in all of these images from some old, black and white video, and the pixelation's so hard, but suddenly magically they're able to get the picture. And I'm like, no, but actually is that, and they can do it with cartoons now. How well can that AI unpixelate a face like that? Is that even possible?
Well, it is, okay, so it is possible, but there has to be data there. Like you have to be able to tell who it is. I mean, like, so I just read an article about this yesterday. So there was an extremely pixelated photo of Barack Obama. And then they ran this algorithm, this super resolution algorithm on it, and it depixelated it. It looked perfectly. It looked like a human face, but it looked nothing like Barack Obama. You know, it just looked like, you know, a white person. So there has to be something there. There's like a threshold, you know, beyond which AI cannot recognize what it is. But I mean, up to that point, if it is pixelated, you can tell what it is, but it just looks really bad, then AI can do an amazing job. My girlfriend sent me a photo of her when she was like 2, and it was taken on a really old camera, and it looks terrible. And I put it into an AI, and it made it look like it was taken on a present day camera. It was just very clean, very detailed. Yeah, AI can do a lot of really cool stuff with images. Okay, so I'm going to read your comments. As a consumer, I can say the Duolingo work is really good and fun. They help me find the right difficulty level for some of my challenges. Yeah, Glenn, that's absolutely dead on. They're using AI to do it. They said that their AI learns 500 million lessons per day, and they train it every night. So it's always learning. Oh, Kate was teaching at Duolingo. That's really cool. Glenn Jarvis, that's awesome. Warren, that's amazing. I had a chance.
We were mostly just chatting at that point about the awesome stuff too.
Okay.
This is kind of what we've done, particularly more in when we had the webinar format. Then to kind of keep it interactive, we would have people chat during the thing. So
okay. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Can I ask one more pixelation question before we go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we move on to someone else, I don't want to take too much air. What if you were to train, like you had a bunch of training data on a particular person, and then you had a really bad photo of that person that there wasn't enough information in? Do you know of any work that's going to be able to, like, I know what that person should look like. Can I make that picture look good for that person with this data? It's kind of a weird question.
Okay, no, that's a good question. So here's the kind of funny answer. So let's say I have 1,000 pictures of Glenn Jarvis, right? And I train this AI to depixelize pictures of Glenn Jarvis, right? So then you have a fuzzy pic of Glenn Jarvis, and then it'll be great at depixelizing that. But let's say I have a really pixelated picture of Jeff Fisher. If I show it to that eye, it is going to turn that pixelated picture of Jeff Fisher into Glenn Jarvis.
That's interesting. That's cool.
So yeah, so AI, it really leans on, you know, how you train it. So it is not smart, you know. Yeah. So what I talked about is called like overtraining or overfitting. It makes an AI that's trained on something so specific that it is completely useless in the real world.
Yeah, like goats on roofs, that kind of thing. That happened a few years ago.
Goats on a roof?
Yeah, there were a bunch of pictures about, can you recognize birds? And there's a wild goats were showing up. Like there were goats on roofs and they look like birds.
That is funny. That is funny. Yeah, actually there was along similar lines. There was an experiment done years ago about recognizing, like a computer was trained to recognize the difference between US tanks and Russian tanks. And they thought that it was getting 100% accuracy, but it turns out it's just darker in Russia. And the AI was predicting that these photos are darker, so those are Russian tanks. And it had nothing to do with the tanks, it was just the background light. Okay, so Linda Zhou says, I would recommend start a project related to your software domain. Nowadays,
I think she's answering. She was the previous speaker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I listened to her. She was awesome. I really enjoyed that. TSP for the win.
Oh, there is a question at the bottom there for you, Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Raj Jory, Austin, Texas. I wanted to talk to you because you were talking about practicing interviewing, but Stitch Fix is using AI everywhere. Absolutely. Stitch Fix was one of the, like I was reading through this, Stitch Fix is using AI everywhere. If you guys don't know, Stitch Fix is a company that chooses your clothes for you. And they have a chatbot where you type in, you know, I want shoes and not a shirt. And then they will register that intention. So you don't even have to talk to a person. And it will say, okay, this guy wants shirts more. All right. How do you know so much? Using package recommender is it from? Okay, so there is a, thank you for asking, Raj. So there's an influencer that I follow named Daliana Liu. She's in the data science world. And she posted a couple weeks ago about this GitHub repository that shows all of the papers and code for companies that are doing stuff in AI. So I went through that and I pulled out the most interesting stuff. All right. Elevator algorithm. I don't know that one actually, but I guess they've solved it.
That was basically the old way of how they programmed elevators, but they also used it for hard drives. So like in the old days, I mean, I still have hard drives in my house, but in the old days, right, in the operating systems class, they teach you that algorithm. But I guess now elevators are much smarter now. Oh, cool. So Raj, I was going to ask if you could post the link, and Raj beat me to it.
Oh, did he?
I think that's the link you're talking about.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's the influencer that I talked about.
Okay.
She's awesome.
If you have the link to the GitHub at some point, I mean, doesn't need to be now.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so D. Todd said some of the solutions you discussed could be solved with machine learning or statistics. What technology makes AI AI? So that is a really good question. So artificial intelligence is getting a computer to do something that normally requires human thought. So that is like a huge field, right? So, I mean, other people can disagree with me, but you could technically argue that because you would normally spray your lawn, you would normally water your lawn at a certain time, and that requires human intelligence. If you have a computer doing the lawn timer for you and watering your lawn at a certain time, that kind of is artificial intelligence because you're getting a computer to do something that normally requires human thought. So then underneath artificial intelligence, there are a bunch of different branches. Most recently, the most popular branch is called machine learning, where you program a computer to learn on its own. And then there's a specific type of machine learning called deep learning, which is based on how the human brain works. That's where all the cool stuff is, you know, all of the like synthesizing faces and beating computer games. That's where all the cool stuff is. And sometimes that is also referred to as artificial intelligence. So AI is at the top and at the bottom, and it's a little bit confusing. But if you just use AI as an umbrella, it can encompass a lot of different things. Okay.
Thank you.
Question, you're welcome. Question for Tyler. Do you know of any companies using reinforcement learning outside of robotics? Yes. Okay, so Dave, when I was looking at this list, there were maybe 4 or 5 companies using reinforcement learning. OpenAI used it to beat the world's best Dota players. Dota is a competitive online video game. DeepMind used it in 2016 to beat the world's best Go player. There was another company that talks about search. I think Alibaba. It was either Alibaba or Tencent, one of those 2 companies. They use reinforcement learning to use the best search engine, to pick the best search engine, I think. So that's a really good question. And I've also heard of somebody predicting the stock market using it. So I think reinforcement learning is the future. But for right now, its business applications are limited. It's harder to find a business application for reinforcement learning. Okay. Is diversity going against the grain of ML? Example, robustness. How do you add new clusters of data that doesn't get cut out as outliers? Ooh, that's a really good question. So, Monica, that is a super good question. So the more data you have and the more diverse data, the harder it is to train your model to be useful. So like, let's say, it would be very difficult to train a model to recognize dogs and music. So for right now, what we do is we train one model for one thing. And if you have to add new clusters of data, I mean, you might be able to, but you might need to just do a new model. I mean, so like what we're doing with my company is, like I talked about how we are predicting energy usage. We're not using one model and then using that same model on every region of the US. We are using one model for this region and this city in that region. And then we're using another model for this city and then another model for this city, et cetera. So your data types cannot be too dissimilar. And also, you know, there's a class problem where you need to have, I mean, if you're classifying things like clustering, you need to have roughly equal numbers of classes. Like you can't have 5,000 pictures of dogs and then 100 pictures of cats, because it'll be really good at guessing dogs and really bad at guessing cats. Okay. Welcome, Monica. Let me know if you have any other questions, Monica. Christy, question for Tyler. I was wondering if you have any ideas of how quantum computing in the future will affect how we leverage AI positively or negatively. That's a very good question, Christy. So up until this last week, I thought that quantum AI was just, who cares? Nobody cares. I don't care about quantum AI. I'll get that when I come to it. But there's a guy who works with me. His name is Daniel, and he is getting his PhD in quantum computing. And he thinks that quantum AI is going to be huge. Like he said that with quantum computers, we can train an AI with fewer samples and faster, which is really cool because right now AI needs, thousands of samples. Like for an image detector, you want maybe 5,000 of each category. And if a quantum computer can train an AI in less time and with less samples, that's great. That would be perfect. So it's something that I plan to look into. There's somebody named Amina Abbas. She's one of the leading minds in quantum computing, and she's also on LinkedIn. And she posts links to classes that she teaches about quantum machine learning. So let me see if I can find that link for you. Applied ML. And I'm going to put that in down there. And let me see, there was a question about reinforcement learning, model management, validation, generation. See, it's sad that there's not very much being done with audio because I think there's so much potential there. Okay. Alibaba sponsored search reinforcement learning, dynamic pricing with reinforcement learning, deeper reinforcement learning in production, and building AI trading systems. So it's a much smaller category than, say, like anomaly detection or computer vision, but people are still using it. All right, so any other questions?
Could I throw one more in there?
Absolutely.
So this is really more of an higher level ethical kind of point of view. So we're definitely doing so much with the entire field to learn, predict, just be more useful. But I'm trying to think, could there be a future challenge for us? For example, we use certain tools to you're not a bot, you've got to be a human, so let me just make sure these pictures are all turned the right way, or pick out the airplanes, or whatever you have to do. But AI is surely will be able to do those type of categories or those type of classification things. Like that seems like they're going to catch up pretty quickly. At what point are we not going to be able to distinguish between people and a bot of a good enough AI? And is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Okay, well, first of all, that's a really, really good question. So I'm going to answer that question in a roundabout way. At this point, if you want an AI to do something, you have to be very specific about what you want it to do, and you have to spend a lot of effort training it to do that one thing. So anybody who wants to make an AI that bypasses CAPTCHAs has a lot better things to do with their time. Like anybody with the skills to build an AI does not need to spam people for money, right? So, I mean, it's possible. I think that making an AI system that could bypass CAPTCHA is pretty easy, but anybody who knows how to do AI has better things to do. Like any team of researchers in the world would be able to create a system that bypasses CAPTCHA, but they're too busy working on, how to detect brain tumors or, super important things like that. It would just be like, why? Why would I create this tool and give it to scammers? I mean, in some certain ways, AI has surpassed humans. Like it can beat video games. In some cases, it can recognize personality traits. It's been said, or it can recognize some diseases better than doctors. It can drive better than humans now. So another answer to your question is, like I said, right now, an AI program can only do one thing. And that's, the one thing that you tell it to do. And I think before AI can excel humans in every way, we kind of have to pass that.
The question is just for one specific way, not every way, but yeah, fair enough though.
Yeah, I mean, AI is already better than humans in a couple ways.
Yeah, and for example, something like CAPTCHA was something I was thinking about. And surely over time, when it becomes easier, that will be something that we'll have to find another way around. Anyhow, interesting stuff.
Yep. All right.
And can you paste? Oh, it's already pasted in. All right, never mind.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so Jeff, are you talking about your career path? Yes, I am. And
Yeah,
so
so so I just want to make sure you're okay before I asked it. So the beginning of the meeting, we kind of had a discussion on interviewing and tips, and people had a lot of career related questions. So I was curious, how did you end up as a machine learning consultant, if you feel okay talking about that?
yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. It kind of, okay, so 3.5 years ago, I was a bookkeeper and I had an idea for an invention. It would be a device that fits on your face and it reminds you to smile. It would buzz you if it detects that you're not smiling, and I would use that to smile more because I just thought it was a good thing to do in life. I had no idea how to do it, so I asked a friend who was good at coding, and he said, use Arduino, use Raspberry Pi, get into coding that way. And so I did. And I made this device and it was pretty cool. And then I realized I could just use a camera and take a picture of my face and see if I'm smiling or not. And that gets into, face recognition and AI. And once I did that, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I want to do this forever. And so ever since then, I've just been learning more and more about AI. I've been learning Python so I can do more AI. And every week so not every week, I would say like every 3 months, some new code or paper comes out that changes everything. Like before this paper came out, it was completely impossible. This idea could never happen. And then it comes out and it's like, wow, that's so amazing. This wasn't even possible before. And so that's what I love about AI. And so, when those things come out, I will play with the code and play around with them and try and learn what I can. And then I worked on Fiverr. Fiverr.com is a freelancing platform. And I worked on there teaching people AI and teaching them machine learning techniques, and they would have project ideas and I would help them through it. So basically how I learned is just kind of through projects and enjoying it. And I also, there used to be something called the Microsoft Professional Certification Program. It's not around anymore, but that's how I learned about AI. I took a year-long set of 10 courses, and that's how I learned. But I think that probably the best experience is people hiring me to create AI programs for them. Then I learn what's possible, what's not. I learn how to think about things, how to do architecture. The job that I'm currently at right now is the best experience I've ever had as far as AI goes, because I'm seeing how people actually do it. I'm seeing how big companies actually run stuff, and it's all in Amazon. It's all in AWS, because everything sort of connects to each other really easily. So how I got this current job, it's still pretty new. It's only been two months, is somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. So that's a good tip that I got from another influencer is find your dream job at your dream company, look at the skills required, learn those skills, and then write in your LinkedIn that you have those skills, like under your skills category, and then recruiters from that company will reach out to you. So the recruiter reached out to me. She was super nice, and she got me this job, and I'm working with people who I really, really enjoy. What's my link for Fiverr? It's just www.fiverr.com. Also freelancer.com, and I think upwork.com are good too. So you just post on there, hey, I'm an ML engineer, I'm a tutor. Tutoring is a very, very fast way to learn, because you can read something, but I think it's been said that you retain 25% of what you read, but you retain 95% of what you teach. And so that's kind of how I learned the best. I would learn something and then I would give a talk like this, and I would teach it to other people, and that really solidified things for me. And also I study for 1 hour every day. So yeah, does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yeah, great. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting. So you kind of, because I think a problem a lot of people have if they're not like going for an ML degree specifically in college is how do you kind of get into that field from, say, generic software engineering or whatever. Yeah. And it seems like you kind of you did the projects on your own and all, and then you bootstrapped it by kind of doing these freelancing projects.
Yeah,
right? That's an interesting way to do that.
Yeah, I feel so bad for anybody who's trying to get into machine learning right now, because when I did it, there was this great year-long course that just taught me everything. But now Microsoft shut that down. So I don't really know what to recommend people. I feel really bad about it. Like people say all the time, how do I get into machine learning? And I recommend, Andrew Ng's course on Coursera, machine learning or deep learning. I've never taken those courses, but I've heard good things. So, but I wish I could refer people to the course that I took because it was amazing. It taught me everything I know. But it's just not there anymore. I just have to express my sympathy. It is really hard. And I'm sorry that, it's hard to find out what to learn.
Andrew's course is like really good. I took it and I'm like redoing it because I forgot most of it because I didn't teach. So.
Okay. Yeah. Teaching is the best way to solidify because your students will ask you really, really good questions. They'll ask you things that you've never thought about and you really have to digest it and, get it in your brain to answer the questions. So for me, that's the best way to learn. Okay, so Glenn can read that question. It says,
or feel free to read it yourself. That was, I think, just to be read out loud if you want.
Okay, and actually also Raj said, you think most companies could use AWS? Most companies use AWS rather than Google Cloud. I've heard of one company using Google Cloud, and every other company that I've talked to uses AWS. I had one company ask if I wanted to use AWS or Azure, but the vast majority of companies that I've talked to are using Amazon, AWS. So one thing that I would point out there is there are a lot of AWS tutorials online, and they are super incredibly boring. And you'll look at them and you'll say, why do I need to know this? I'm never going to need to know this. And then you get a job doing machine learning and you're like, oh my gosh, everything that I learned, I'm using now. So it's really, really important to at least know the basics of Amazon Web Services like S3 and SageMaker and EC2. So as soon as we get off that call, go on YouTube and look up 3 videos about actually IAM is another really important thing because you can't get going without that. So EC2, S3, SageMaker, and IAM for AWS, because I guarantee you are going to get a job where you're using AWS and you're going to be completely confused and you will have no idea what you're doing and you're going to be really frustrated. So just watch those 4 things. You can watch a video in 10, 15 minutes. And so you'll be prepared for when you get hired. All right. So question for Tyler. What do you study for 1 hour per day? That's a good question, Dave. Whatever is in my way. So whatever is stopping me from progressing in my career. So right now, I know a lot about machine learning and AI, but I cannot pass a coding test. And the reason why is I never studied coding algorithms because they never interested me. And in all my machine learning adventures, I've never had to use a binary tree. I've never had to use a linked list. And so I just never learned it. And so now I'm having to go back and learn all of these things that coding interviews say I should know. I want to be able to get into companies like Facebook. And I can't right now because they require some pretty rigorous coding tests, even though these tests have nothing to do with AI or machine learning. So I am working on those skills because I've been very frustrated. I'll do an interview for a job that I feel I'm very qualified for, and then they put, a linked list question in front of me, and I have no idea what it is. Okay.
So Tyler, regarding the Facebook, are you applying for data scientist positions or machine learning engineer?
Machine learning or artificial intelligence.
Okay, yeah. Then they will do the coding interview. I'm taking the Udemy course. I can send you the link later. It's really good. I mean, there are so many courses, but there's just $10 and it's really good.
What's the course name?
I'll find you and send the link here.
Okay, thank you. I'm currently using Algo Expert and it's not really helping me. Okay, fun fact, the manual for Amazon's IAM. Oh my gosh, it's 850 pages long. Oh no. Yeah. So don't read the manual because it's really boring. But just watch a 5-minute video about it. Okay, so Glenn, I taught a 2 hours class on it for the basics. I can help anyone who's stuck with IAM. Yeah. So talk to Glenn if you're stuck.
You heard it. Glenn's offering to help next.
I still have some online classes where I teach people some stuff like that, so I'll happily do it.
All right.
I can resurrect the identity and access management. Not a problem. For one, Tyler, while we're making offers, I will make you an offer if you're interested, a 1-to-1 exchange. If you will teach me something for 1 hour, I will teach you coding for an hour. If you want to do an equal exchange where we actually go through a linked list, and we actually build it from the ground up, and we'll actually use, I have a video I can send your way to get you some basics on it for how to use test-driven development to get that started. If you're interested.
Can we do binary trees?
Yeah, of course.
Hallelujah, you are a godsend. Absolutely. I accept.
We'll connect afterwards. Sounds great.
Okay. All right.
We can
Okay.
even do B+ trees if you want.
We can do
Either
what?
way. Yeah, we're good. I'm being silly. We're
Okay.
good.
All right. That sounds perfect. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, thanks a lot. It was a great talk.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks to Linda for her talk. It was